I love Persona 4. And the best thing about this game is the waifus. No, wait, it's the ending. We're here to talk about the final act. The waifus are still great, though. Yukiko is best girl, Sumi. The original Persona 4 is one of my favorite finales of all time. The finale wraps up the game's narratives, both through gameplay and its characters. In fact, I would say that it's a rather brilliant ending. The later additions to the Persona 4 universe, they're all fun in their own way. I especially am a fan of Persona 4 the animation and its hilarious antics.
I got yakisoba noodles. I even got to dance and see a haunted house and a fortune teller.
What? You saw the fortune teller?
I did. And the fortune lady knew you. She said you're a manly,
She was strange. Forget it.
man whore. She said you're one big man whore.
But they're all fluff, they don't really add anything substantial, and none of them quite nail the character significance the original ending will always have to me. The original Persona 4 is the 5th game in the Persona series, a now more popular spin-off from the Shin Megami Tensei series of RPGs produced by Atlus. The game was released in 2008. Let's go back to 2008 for a bit and look at the state of the internet especially. Back in 2008, YouTube was nothing more than cat videos, machinima, and RuneScape videos with terrible audio. 4 years later, this gaming section of YouTube has exploded into somewhat of an industry of its own, with information and humor on video games being everywhere. People were getting to grips with the modern state of the internet and how to use it. Young people especially. This information spreading is actually quite important, because it is a necessity for getting to Persona 4's true ending. Before the everyday use of the internet, having multiple or even secret endings was a bit of a risk for developers. It is definitely cool to find some hidden stuff inside a game, but is it worth it to make a possibly large portion of a game a majority may never find? A game like Chrono Trigger and its many endings work with its New Game Plus function and it being rather short by RPG standards at least. But for a lengthy game such as Persona 4, locking away the true ending behind hoops to jump through would be developer suicide before the age of the internet and its ease of access to information. The original Persona 4 has 3 endings. A bad ending, a good ending, and a true ending. The bad ending is, well, pretty bad. The good ending is alright, pretty decent, better than a lot of RPGs still, to be completely honest. But the true ending is absolutely phenomenal. Now, the fact that the good ending is already pretty good, and that it has the same credit scene at the end, means that the first time playing, I didn't even realize that there was a true ending. I just thought the good ending was the true ending. The good ending wraps up the mystery of the killings in Inaba, and everything else seems fine, because you got the bad guy, right? The fact that the mystery of why the Midnight Channel even existed in the first place didn't really occur to me as a strong enough reason to keep exploring the game much further. It is only when I read about it online that I found about the true ending. Otherwise I may have never gotten there, as it is fairly well hidden through some clever gameplay tricks. On the final day in Inaba, before leaving for the train station, you have the option to talk to all of your friends, corresponding to the social links you have maxed out. If you've talked to everyone, the game will give you the option to go to the station. If you take it here, the game will go to its good ending, and you will miss out on the true one. Instead, you have to actively decline and go to the Junes food court after to meet up with the gang. Here you can figure out that the Midnight Channel and the world inside of the TV is still a mystery to all of you, and you still all wonder who or what even gave you the power to switch personas in the first place. After some deduction, strange remembering, and running around town, it turns out that it was actually the first person you met in the town of Inaba. It wasn't Nanako, it wasn't Dojima, it was the gas station attendant. While the twist seems obvious now, remembering that after an 80-hour game was quite a surprise, to me at least. What's more, this person is a goddess who has orchestrated everything behind the scenes, and now dares you to one final chapter in the story. One last dungeon for you to explore. What I love most about this is that not a lot is really at stake here, feels that way at least. Rather than people's lives or finding the murderer, the main stake in the final dungeon is the character's pride. They have to beat Izanami to prove that this game is their journey, and not some ploy by a god who doesn't even care for them. In my opinion, Yosuke sums it up best.
We can't say our goodbyes tomorrow with this hanging over our heads. Let's go figure this out.
The point of the final dungeon is proving to Izanami that you, the characters of the game, have agency over themselves, that can go even against the gods. Persona 4 uses some clever tricks to convey Izanami's godly presence inside of the game. Izanami is a god in a video game, so to get a chance of defeating a god in a video game, it means you have to go against the game itself. In even avoiding the good ending to get to Izanami, there are many instances where the player has to put in extra effort and thought to even pursue her. Look at these in-game options you have to take here. They all guide you away from her, so much that it actually becomes suspicious. All options also start out with you not choosing the good option to get to her. The default always strays away from Izanami, at least at the start of the investigation here. I love how Izanami is framed as part of the game's mechanics itself. You facing against her equals you rebelling against the very game. Izanami also lectures you on how you have nothing to gain from facing off against her, basically mocking you for your greed and pride in attempting to attack a god. Going against evil or incapable authority figures is a main theme throughout the entire game, and the game sometimes openly celebrates young people's innate distrust of authority. The entire game has been this bunch of meddling kids going against nasty teachers, well-meaning but misunderstanding adults, and some of the absolute worst people on the face of the planet. This now climaxes at the final authority figure, a godlike entity, the orchestrator behind the scenes, the game itself. And for one last time, the party has to overcome their own limits to solve the final mystery and get through the final dungeon. The fog has lifted from Inaba. The fog in the world beyond the TV doesn't seem to be threatening the real world directly. You're not doing all of this because you have to save the city, catch a murderer, or rescue the frickin' princess or whatever. You go to these lengths because you want to. You want to show Izanami you can stand up to. You want to complete the game. Heroes inevitably want to complete the game, because that is what makes them a hero. When you get to the dungeon itself, it is mostly the same as other dungeons, gameplay-wise at least. No gimmicks or anything. The music is pretty cool, and visually it seems to resemble a distorted corridor of torii, those entrance gates at Japanese shrines. Not unlike the Fushimi Inari Taisha in real-life Kyoto in Japan. The corridor symbolizes Izanagi's mythological journey to visit Izanami, who lived in the land of Yomi, basically Japan's version of Hell or Hades. Yomotsu Hirasaka is the name of the hill that leads to the underworld. This is also the place where in mythology Izanagi cleansed himself. The state before he cleansed himself is known as Magatsu Izanagi. This was actually Adachi's persona. You know, the guy everyone hates, both in and out of the game. The crazy serial killer who hates everyone because he is alone and doesn't have the friends and acquaintances around him that you have built up during the game. Namatame prior was the you that accepted comfortable lies. Adachi was the you who didn't care about the truth of the world. But you do, because you care for others and others care for you. The resting section of the dungeon is even called Ashihara Nakatsu, which is this mythological place between heaven and hell, or something, I don't really get it. I would say that this dungeon is therefore not Izanami's dungeon, but Izanagi's dungeon. It is your own dungeon. Just like the last two dungeons were Namatame's and Adachi's, this one is yours. You are the only one in your party who hasn't had a dungeon yet, after all. By seeing the truth and defeating evil versions of yourself in Namatame and Adachi, you have cleansed yourself and are now ready to face Izanami. It is your voyage into hell towards her. In the mythological story, this is also where Izanagi created the beings of Susanoo, Amaterasu, and Tsukuyomi. The personas of Yosuke, Chie, and Yukiko. God damn it, Chie, you had one job. One job! This is why nobody likes you. Except this guy, I guess. Oh yeah, it later also occurred to me that this whole mythological story also gets told in-game by one of your teachers during class. It makes the references more obvious and on the nose, but you could also see it as a hint that the true ending is there if you haven't found it yet, even though it's kind of vague. I still think it's pretty cool because you can actually see this story being told in school by one of your actual teachers, right? In the video so far, I've talked about the great setup to the final boss of Persona 4. It would be a shame if the fight itself didn't deliver on its build-up. Thankfully, the two-stage boss fight delivers in spades. If you didn't grind the game to arguably a fault, the boss's difficulty, I think, is really nice, being fair but difficult, pushing you to use SP recovery items and multi-turn strategies, as well as forcing you to block some of its strongest attacks. I would be remiss not to mention the awesome music tracks used in this fight too. The first stage's theme, Mist, is an epic guitar track that just rocks out, and the second stage's theme, Genesis, carries a godlike aura. The leitmotif here is also phenomenal. This is the concluding fight. All battles you fought before culminate here. You reached out to the truth. When it seems like you've beaten Izanagi, she unleashes her final attack. This is another instance where the game uses its gameplay and story in tandem perfectly. If you created a social link with your party members, they will take a fatal hit for you. This final attack is no exception. All hope fades away when Thousand Curses takes away all your party members one by one, and finally takes you as well. All hope seems lost, but one by one, everyone you've met and formed friendships with in Inaba, all the social links you've built up throughout the entire game encourage you. They all lift your spirits, and you manage to get up one last time. By forming these true bonds with everyone, your persona finally evolves to its true form, Izanagi no Okami. Your powers rival Izanami now. You can barely withstand her strongest attacks and finally overcome this godlike obstacle with myriad truths. And when you do, it looks and sounds amazing. Your ideal of truth beyond the fog has triumphed over Izanami's ideal of comforting lies. The fog has lifted in the world beyond the TV now, and it has never looked better. The game is all wrapped up. After Igor has complimented your efforts and you've seen the beautiful world beyond the fog of lies, it is sadly time for you to finally leave on your train. I can't really say a lot to compliment this scene. It's simple, but everything about it just works so well. The leitmotif in the credits song, the short meaningful bits of dialogue, everything just works.
Distance doesn't matter to us! Even if we're separated, we're still friends! See you again, Sensei! Bye!
I love this game. I love this scene. It still manages to bring a tear to my eye, even though I've seen it dozens of times already. The leading to the true ending is genius, the final dungeon and the final boss are fantastic, and I love this grand send-off you get. I absolutely love Persona 4, especially the waifus. I mean its ending.